Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, everything educator related. Now this video is part 2. So if you check out my last video, I did a FTCE GK reading on competency 1. Now we're doing a review on competency 2 of the GKE FTCE reading exam. Now please go ahead, if you haven't seen competency 1, please go ahead and check that out. Competency 2 will make sense only if you watch competency 1. Also, please go ahead and check out my video where I reviewed some FTCE GK reading resources that could help you to prepare for your exam. I have a lot of tips and tricks, a lot of videos on that. So if you could please go check out those videos as well, if that would be very helpful for you. So today we're going to do competency 2 review where I will break down each competency with you. Now, this is straight from the FTCE website. So competency 2 basically has 5 skills. First, you have to be able to interpret the meaning of words and phrases as used in text. So that is figurative language, connotative language, and technical meanings. Second, you have to know how to analyze how specific word choices shape meaning or tone. 3, you have to know how to analyze how the author uses organization and text structure to convey meaning. 4, you have to be able to contrast the point of view of 2 or more authors on the same topic by analyzing their claims, reasoning, and evidence. And 5, you have to be able to analyze how point of view and purpose shape the content and style of text. Now, we're going to look at the first skill. So once again, it was interpret the meaning of words and phrases as used in the text. So I'm going to go over figurative language with you. I'm going to go over connotative language and technical meanings. Now, as you can see here in the photo, connotation versus denotation. Now, when you're reading a passage, you have to be able to pick out what the actual meaning of a word is, or how that word is connotated, meaning what is the author trying to say. So you have the specific definition of a word and you have the feeling that word brings off or carries off. So for example, connotation versus denotation. The girl said you went on a date with an no, sorry, I'm starting from over here. So look over the connotation part. It says the weasel I went on a blind date with last night. And then the girl said, you went on a date with an actual weasel? So this shows the difference between connotation and denotation. Connotation is how he feels. So he feels as if the girl who he went on a blind date with, he compared her to a weasel. So that's how he felt about her. But denotation, on the other hand, she doesn't get it. She doesn't get that that's how he is portraying the date to be, right? She's thinking the actual meaning. That's what denotation is. Denotation is the actual meaning of a word. So once again, denotation is the literal meaning of a word. So for example, this shirt is cheap enough for me to afford. The denotation or meaning of the word cheap is low in price. So that's the literal meaning of cheap. So if I go to you and I ask, what is the vocabulary meaning of cheap? You would say cheap just means low in price, right? So that's a definition, that's the meaning. Connotation, on the other hand, is the feeling the word provokes. So if I'm going to say that t-shirt was so cheap, it tore in a matter of weeks, I'm not talking the literal meaning. I'm talking the feeling the word provokes. So for example, I'm not I'm saying that my t-shirt is so cheap. That means I'm trying to say it it isn't made so good. It's not made properly at all because it tore so quickly. So I think it's so cheap, right? So that's the feeling it provokes. So that's what the picture was trying to say. Denotation is the meaning, the literal meaning of a word, and connotation is the feeling it provokes. He feels as if the date was not good, right? So he's basically calling his blind date a weasel. the weasel I went on a blind date with last night. So once again, connotation is the feeling a word provokes. It can be negative or it can be positive. So it can be a negative feeling or it can be a positive feeling. So once again, that shirt was so cheap it tore in a matter of weeks. Connotation can bring off a negative feeling or positive feeling. So in this case, if I'm telling someone that their shirt looks cheap, right? It's more of a negative. It's in a negative light. So the connotation or feeling the word cheap brings off in this sentence is negative. The connotation suggests that the item was a poor quality and cheaply made. So once again, denotation is the actual meaning and connotation is the feeling it brings off. And that feeling can either be a positive or a negative feeling. So when you're reading an essay, depending on how the author uses the word, you can know whether he has a positive feeling towards something or a negative feeling, right? So in this case, the t-shirt was so cheap it tore in a matter of weeks. That's clearly a negative feeling. He doesn't like the shirt because it's quote cheap. Okay, so here's another example. Remember, connotations can be positive or negative. So if between the three words, childish, childlike, youthful, these are three words that has the same meaning, literally. So the denotation, which remember we said denotation is literal meaning, is the definition of the word. So these three words mean the same thing. These three words would mean the same thing. So they all mean the same, which is qualities associated with a child, right? So that's the denotation of the three words. The connotation of, on the other hand, is the feeling that word provokes. So if I say somebody is childish, or if I say somebody is so childlike, that brings off a negative feeling, right? Because connotations, when used to describe someone, it brings off the feeling that the person is acting immature. So if I say, oh my gosh, this man is so childish. This woman is so childlike. I'm so tired of her. Clearly, I'm using that negatively. So that's a negative connotation. And that would tell you that I'm feeling as if it will basically show you that I'm not really feeling that woman or not really feeling that man because that person comes off childish, childlike. In other words, they're immature, they're acting immature. So, for example, if me and somebody is in a confrontation, I would say, "Oh my gosh, you're so childish. You're so childlike." Obviously, I'm saying it negatively. That isn't something good. So, in this case, childish and childlike is used as a negative connotation, negative feelings. Whereas the word youthful, keep in mind, even though these three words have the same denotation or the same definition, they can be used in a way that is either negative or positive. So remember, we said childish and childlike seems more of negative. You're saying somebody's immature. Versus useful is a positive connotation because when used to describe someone, it brings off the feeling that that person is lively and energetic, right? So if a 50-year-old grandmother, oh my gosh, grandma, you are so useful, that would be a positive connotation, meaning positive feelings, because you're saying something positive. It brings off something positive. Versus, I'm going to say, oh my gosh, you are so childish. So I'm hoping you guys understand the difference between a positive and a negative connotation. You don't have to mix up connotation and denotation because denotation is literally just means the literal meaning of a word. Connotation is the feeling the words provoke. So you're going to have to know how to um you're going to have to know how to identify that in when reading your essay because it helps in knowing how the author feels about whatever the author is writing about or whatever the topic is. So here is another example. You have worked, toiled, plugged away. The denotation meaning the literal meaning of these three words are the same. It is basically an activity involving mental or physical effort done in order to achieve a purpose or result, right? So both of all of these words, worked, toiled, plugged away, mean the same thing. It means physical effort, right? So that's the denotation. Now, however, how they are used in a sentence or in a paragraph or in an essay says a lot. So that's connotation. So if I'm saying the the what example should I use? The farmers toiled away all night. The farmers plugged away all night to get their work done for their managers. That toiled and plugged away are negative connotations because the feeling it gives off is as if the work being done is strenuous and continuously boring and difficult, right? So if I'm saying the farmers toiled and they plugged away all night trying to get the work done for their managers, it gives off a negative connotation because it seems as if they are being they're under pressure or they are being forced to get the work done. It's as if they don't have any choice, right? Versus if I use the word worked, the farmers worked all night to get the job done for their manager. That sounds more positive compared to toiled or plunged away because it gives the feeling as if the work being done is purposeful and meaningful. So you should be able to see the difference between a positive and a negative connotation there. So we are going to do this together. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to tell me in the comment section, or I'm going to continue this video, but I'm going to pause so you could answer this question. So on your own, which statement is a positive connotation and which is a negative connotation? So the first one, when Cassie left the room, she closed the room door. Versus, when Cassie left the room, she slammed the room door. The other one, the girl grabbed the book from her friend. Versus, the girl took the book from her friend. So I want you to take a minute to figure out which makes a difference, or which would be a positive connotation and which would be a negative connotation. Please head over to part 2 of this video where I'll discuss the answers with you and I'll continue on with the video. Thank you for watching thus far and please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.